There you go. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Let me just go now back to my PowerPoint. To the first Local Wellness Coalition meeting of 2026. I am your host, Jade Adelbert, and we are going to start. So today, just looking at the agenda. Oh, and also I can't see anyone. So if you have a question, unmute yourself and say something because right now I'm just looking at the PowerPoint. So we're going to talk about the current mission of the Local Wellness Coalition. We're going to talk a little bit about a vision, new direction, some goals, objectives. We're going to talk about leadership, and if we have some time, we're going to talk about next steps. Oh, well, I should also keep a track of time too because I can't see anything on my thing now. All right, so the current mission of the Local Wellness Coalition is to reduce the harm of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other drugs in our towns through community action, education, support, and collaboration. So when Claudia and I we had a meeting for DMYFS kind of in the beginning of the year to kind of plan out what we're doing. We talked a lot about the Local Wellness Coalition, and we looked at the mission and we were kind of thinking about where this came from. So, full transparency, Claudia and I have not been here a whole lot. Like, we've been here for about a year. Claudia's been here for longer, but in a different capacity. And it sounds like the mission of the Local Wellness Coalition had a lot to do with the drug-free community grant funding that DMYFS had. So the drug-free community or DFC grant is a 10-year grant that is a government, it's a federal grant that coalitions can get. And so, but once you get it for 10 years, you can't get it again. So we have already, before Claudia and I started in the roles that we are in now, we had already done our 10 years, the Local Wellness Coalition has. And with the coalitions that have received the DFC grant, there's a lot of reporting and a lot of parameters that have to be met. And so as we were talking, it kind of seemed like the mission was very much in line with what the DFC really wanted. And so part of what our discussion, Claudia and my discussion was if we want to continue with this mission or if we want to change it. And what really are the needs of our community and what would best serve them. So we sent out the youth survey data. We did the presentation that you all have seen. And if you have not seen it yet, I definitely recommend watching it. It's not super long and it kind of gives you the highlight reel of what we found with the data. And it speaks to what the Durham Middlefield Youth and Family Services are going to be working on in the next year. So that's a big part of what I want to talk about today. So an option that we were thinking about was serving the community through building awareness. So we have kind of an idea of what the direction we would like to go into. But we're kind of thinking around, rather than doing things, is more like building awareness, and doing that around, breaking down stigma and stuff around. I guess it depends on what we want it to be about. So I had a few ideas of what it could be about, but I also kind of wanted to hear from you guys to see if you guys had any thoughts or anything that you believe the community needs greater awareness around. And this is a good discussion part. So let me see if I can. Okay.
And I'm just going to chime in here.
Mm-hmm.
When Jade and I talked about this, we thought, let's distill this down to what's a big need in the community and how can we, as a Local Wellness Coalition fulfill that need with, it's the two of us, and then we have a very small part-time case manager who only does diversion. So our talk was about, we know our focus areas based on the data from the youth survey. What about the coalition? And this coalition means all of you. So this was the idea we came up with. It felt like something we could bite off and do well. We're not married to it, but I just wanted to give that background.
I can also share. So this is kind of this big idea, and I can kind of share what an option that we had, which was to reduce stigma around mental health and addiction struggles through building awareness. And we can do that in a number of different ways. Um, and we can talk about that when we think about like what objectives are. But I was wondering if maybe this would be a good time for discussion of what are if do we like this idea, or do we want this to be something different? What do you think our community really needs?
I think you can never go wrong with an awareness. Like, and Jade, you and I have talked about like a lot of the needs. And I guess for me, it comes back to destigmatizing mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And if if we worked on that through an awareness campaign, um, that would help build protective factors for our youth, right? They'd be more open to talk about it, or an adult may be more open to question their child or a child's friend or whatever about it. So ultimately, it would feed into our mission also of building protective factors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I
So,
definitely agree
oh,
on the awareness piece. I think it's a great I think it's a great place, especially, in bringing into that just when we talk about awareness, like what all plays into that, right? Like I think that, along with the stigma, but there's still this, it's not, um, I'll say just, the with kids, with um adults in terms of, depression, but like, like not one day of sadness, but also like dealing with that so that it doesn't get worse, right? Like I think trying to get from people like what they think it is or don't know what it is, like I think kind of being able to like bring in all of their thoughts and ideas. And I know for sure this plays a lot into the art exhibit, but like, what does it mean to you, right? But like to that with everyone, like, what does that mean to them, right? In terms of, yeah, mental health and bringing in all those pieces. So I think the awareness is fabulous.
I like what you said too, Denise, because it just reminded me that we can also do a better job at like definition, right? Like sad for one day is not depression.
Right.
3 weeks consistently. So that part of the awareness of like, when to seek help or helping our community define what that is or know more about it.
Sure. I'm actually even reminded too of just recently taking my daughter to a pediatrician appointment and even going to my own doctor's appointments, right? Like very often now, like, there's a questionnaire that everyone needs to fill out. And I think even talking about that, like, hey, the last time you went to a doctor and you had to fill out this questionnaire, right? Like kind of bringing in um kind of that like touch point of what would impact all of us, right? And being able to, to be able to talk about that so that they're even prepared to take a questionnaire, right? When they need to.
Thank you, Denise.
Sure.
um, right. My thoughts is as soon as I see the word stigma, I think anything that we can do to continue to reduce stigma associated with mental health, anything talking about youth, excuse me, involved in any kind of so, social interactions, day-to-day interactions, being social, staying off social media, cell phones, right? And then, of course, drugs and alcohol. I think we are, in general, this is very in general, raising a generation that is more open to things, right? They do have a greater awareness than previous generations because we are talking more about things. We are having forums that students are allowed to be a part of, um, telling them it's okay to talk about these things, right? We're moving more towards a generation where, yeah, I know I'm a therapist, but therapy is a good thing. We need to go to therapy. Everybody needs therapy, right? It would be great if everybody went to therapy, but that it's not something that it was years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where you didn't really tell anyone if you were in therapy. Therapy is important. Talking about things is important. So anything we can do to reduce stigma around that, anything that is excuse me, going to affect our children, right? We want to talk about. We want to talk about in the open. We want to have those conversations.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I definitely could share through my companies recently switched my company was bought out, but at both companies we had an EAP service to which I know was widely used, myself included. And yeah, I mean happy to share in any, way forums, right, in terms of the benefits of that.
And kind of also building off of like the social connection aspect of things, I think that really helps to reduce stigma and loneliness and isolation that many people feel during those sort of struggles. And I think it's important more now than ever to build those social connections in person rather than online. Creating inclusive spaces and events for people, and then just encouraging people to, share different activities and volunteer. I really feel like that helps build a community. And regardless of people's differences, it kind of strengthens them.
Mhm.
And I
I'm
would
so
just kind of,
excited about
oh,
these great thoughts.
and just I was going to drop in on just a couple of thoughts here. I mean, I've heard mainly on the addiction side. I might work on the board for Root Center, and just through my life. I mean, one of the things that they do drive home so much, and by they, I mean people who are battling addiction at the present time, is their the role stigma played in slowing their ability to seek out the assistance that they needed. And so, the organization has been doing a lot to make it a much more, a much less stigmatizing place to be in terms of the architecture and just the way that people are treated and the type of environment that they're at when they're seeking treatment to try and relieve that. But anything we can do to reduce stigma, also, I think, not in whole, but at least in part, it helps to reduce the reluctance of people to seek out the help that they need. And and whether we are providing that through the schools or we're encouraging them to get it where it's at, that kind of thing. And when we reduce stigma, we reduce the reluctance of people to seek out help that they know they need, but sometimes it is an actual block in them pursuing it. So there could be some real benefits in doing that within the community.
Thanks, Martin. Morgan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, what comes to mind for me is these issues are so prevalent everywhere. So it kind of popped into my head, but like having reduce stigma around mental health and addiction struggles through bringing awareness around prevalence and building kindness and communication. Because like some people said, that social piece, that if we could just talk about this stuff without jumping down one another's throats, I mean, everyone's dealing with something. So if we can bridge that gap, I mean, everywhere so divided with everything, and it, we're all kind of the same. We're all just trying to make it through the day. So that was kind of my thought, the bigger I don't know, bigger view because even the video showing the bullying's up and it's probably always been up and the mental health and it starts with the kids, but it follows everybody. So that was my thought.
I agree. I think that everybody faces these challenges, and when you reduce the stigma, more people will be willing to talk about it and share their experiences, and then you don't feel quite like you're, against the world and everything.
Something that we were thinking about like different ways in which we can go about these goals was there's almost like there's like a few things that can happen. We can talk about like mental health and addiction in general, and we can talk about like this is what's going on in general. This is what mental health, like this is what depression is. This means this. Therapy is for everyone. All that kind of stuff is very general. And then we could and slash or we can also talk about, hey, in our communities, this is what is actually happening. And kind of maybe I don't know what that would look like. Maybe it's like, hey, the reality is that, this portion of students, like of youth in our community, I think it was like 17%, or no, excuse me, that's not correct. 22% of high school students report some sort of disordered eating behavior. Like 22%. That's almost a quarter. Like, and that's more of like, that's like more, that's not like the statistic for, everywhere, but that's for our community. So it kind of maybe, I don't know if that's a direction that we want to go down, is maybe being very specific of like, this is what's actually happening in our community, in which, I don't know if that's something that do we want to make that part of the goal, or do we want to make it more general, or does anybody have any ideas on that?
I think that part's really important too, just because right here, that's what we need. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, yeah, the general stuff can help, but focusing in on, I mean, it could be generally about eating disorders or something like that, but just that idea of talking about it and here's how common it is, like you're not alone kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I agree completely of getting specific about specific topics, especially when you have data to back that up, right? And being able to share that with the public, right? Numbers speak the truth. And so when people see that number, I don't know if this is a publicly shared survey or the results of it, but it is alarming, right? Especially for parents to see that, parents
Yeah.
that have children in those grades.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree. Like if you get like specific like that, I also think it would be a much easier way to measure your goals and see that we've actually achieved them by the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So does anyone have, so it sounds like a lot of people, we all kind of like this idea of like building awareness, not necessarily like we're going to hold these different events or whatever, do this sort of program. But it sounds like it's like we're going to build awareness. We're going to make sure that this information is disseminated. Um, and so that's something that I want to like, I guess I want to like kind of nail down. Is that kind of what we're saying? And so there's that, and then there's something else I wanted to say. I wanted to say, do we want to focus on like youth in particular? So I heard a lot of people talking about youth, and then do we want to focus on youth? Do we want to be youth and adults? Kind of throughout the life. Like, I guess, does anybody have any strong feelings around that?
I feel like it's important to focus on both, especially in this day and age. I feel like a lot of people are struggling. Mental health is just not great right now for adults and youth alike. Um, you know, People are having financial struggles. They're having, struggles with family about political ideas, and then once you get into that, people are depressed. Then they tend to have like addictions come out, like, it can cascade into all age groups. I just think it's important not to just focus on one, but it really should be everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of, yeah, adults as well. Just because I think if we can tap into them as well, that we can, that, yeah, broader awareness piece, right, of targeting them as well, and then they can help share with kids where applicable. But yeah, I like.
Yeah, I agree. Because if you're also teaching the adults like this awareness, it'll probably make it easier for them to speak to their children about it and to
Yeah, and I
just
think
kind
for
of,
kids to hear that we're speaking to the adults about it too, that no, it's not just you kids, like,
yeah,
right? Like us adults are
exactly. Like
struggling
it's
with it too,
everybody.
right?
We're
So it's
all
not
going
a
crazy.
target. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well, what's
agree with that.
interesting, oh, sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, I agree with that. And then I think the program piece is still a part of it just because if we just, put out information, people may or may not read it, but figuring out how to get them engaged too. And I don't know what exactly that would look like, but just my thought.
So I think that's going to be really important. I like that idea of like programming is really important. I think part of that will come, or I guess part of the question about what would programming look like will will kind of go into what are our goals and what does the leadership look like. So um, being realistic, everybody in the coalition has like other things that they're doing outside of being in the coalition. And so kind of making sure that we're realistic about like what are the things that we can accomplish and kind of and seeing where we can go from there. And if our goal is we're going to build awareness and we're going to have this do that by these different objectives, and one of them could be a program, but making sure that we're all on the same page of like what is the work that goes into it, how are we going to kind of accomplish that. Bron, what were you going to say? I saw you unmute. Were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say, I thought I don't think it was quite a year ago, but I loved how candid everybody was when we had our discussion from the anxious generation
Yeah.
because it was so eye-opening. I had no idea, of course, I'm not a parent, but I had no idea parents were going through what they were going through. And I think it's so helpful to know, I'm sure it was very helpful for those parents to know they're not the only one. So I think to be in a group and to have a book as the focus, and you guys were so wonderful because you made copies of the book available to sit in an open discussion where you see other people being candid and you're like, oh my God, it's not just me, I think is the most helpful thing in the world. So I wish I knew of more, resources like that book, but I was just amazed. You could sense that people just really wanted to share what they were going through. And I thought
Yeah.
that was a nice vehicle for that.
It
That
sounds
was a great book too, by the way. I love that book.
I think that's also kind of speaking exactly to what Alyssa was talking about having that connection. I think I don't remember if you were part of that discussion. There was another book that it was The Anxious Generation, but it was the second time we did it. And we had it was a much smaller group, and we had a parent share so like really like they're really struggling and feeling like they were a bad parent. And I remember thinking like, man, I bet every single person, I'm willing to bet every single person has felt that.
Yep.
Every parent has felt that. Even, anyone who is at their job, everybody has felt that feeling before. But not a lot of people talk about it. And a lot of people, you look around and you don't really think that everybody has felt that, even though they really have. So I think that idea of like having that that group discussion, so it's not just so individual, is important. So let me pull up my slide again and kind of go, nope, yep. So Okay, so this is what so here I was kind of thinking about how to do this in terms of, oh no, hold on. I figured out how to see everybody. Okay, cool. So I want to talk about the goal and then what are some objectives that we can do. I also, and I didn't know where to put this slide about where the leadership is. Kind of what I was speaking to earlier. We all are really busy and there's a lot of things going on, and if we want to do a whole bunch of really cool things, that's awesome. And I want to make sure that we all have like buy-in, and it's also not um it's not like unrealistic. So I am more than happy to be like the co-chair of the local wellness coalition. So it's not just like hosted by Jade Adalbert. So that's so I'm really would like that to be for us to like talk about that. I know that there's not a whole lot of people in this meeting right now. I so like it can be kind of difficult, but basically part of what a coalition would be is a group of people who are like-minded coming together and accomplishing a goal. And they're representatives from all different sections and sectors of the community. So it's like a really robust group of people with different, like, from different walks of life, basically. It also acts as a I forgot what the word is, but like basically like, what we talk about here kind of helps DMYFS also kind of inform what we are doing. So with that being said, I I want the leadership, or I hope that the leadership would be myself and somebody who's not affiliated with DMYFS, because I also don't want this to be just like another DMY, like two DMYFSs, but one is called the Local Wellness Coalition kind of thing. So I'm kind of hoping that if somebody would like to be a co-chair with me, that it would not be affiliated with DMYFS, like not on the board or a staff member. I'm also asking that this would be a commitment for a year. We can also discuss next, at the end of this year in 2027, do we want to change like maybe we want to build awareness around something else, like, whatever the topic will be, we can also like change leadership then. And being realistic, it's not going to, I mean, I guess it depends on what the goal is, but it's not going to be the most time, because we're all busy. So it would be either an email or a brief meeting with me beforehand, just so we can talk about what the agenda is, and whatever. And then also to make sure that you're at the meetings, it'd be like once a quarter, 1 hour meeting like we're at today. And then if there's any tasks that have to do with the objectives, to work together, it could be a group of us. It could, with the two chairs kind of doing a lot of that whatever. So it kind of depends on what we want our objectives to be and what the leadership, like what does that look like. So I want to put that out there. Is there anybody who is thinking about or interested in being a co-chair with me?
I would love to learn more about the responsibilities. I know you said meetings 4 times a year, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a board member or staff member, so I guess I would be eligible.
Yeah.
And to meeting and planning quarterly meetings and tasks associated with objectives. I guess I'd want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I wanted to put this out there so that and if anybody's like interested, can kind of start percolating on this,
Okay.
and then we can maybe talk about what the objectives are.
Okay.
That being said, by the end of the meeting, so in about 25 minutes, we're going to have a co-chair so that we can have, so kind of think of, thinking about it.
You want me to ask now? That's like no pressure, right? 25 minutes.
Yeah, no pressure.
Not sticky.
And
Like,
if
It's
some,
a
and
lot of
yeah,
it's a
go ahead.
lot of like evening commitments and stuff like that.
Well, I guess it depends on what our goal is. So let me
Okay.
actually, how about this? How about I switch to the next slide?
Okay.
All right. So, so here's like a sample of what I was thinking.
Okay.
So if our goal is to build awareness around mental health and addiction,
Yep.
if we had like three objectives, one of them could be to design and post two billboards. Like that's a really easy way to do things, you know, to build awareness. I don't know if you saw, oh man, what's that intersection? It's by
Yeah,
the
147 in Maine.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank
I
you.
pass by it all the time.
Yep,
Yep.
147 in Maine. There's a the Nice or Nothing campaign has
Yes.
a billboard.
Okay.
So that's an example. We can do a couple billboards if that's something that people are interested in. And then part of that would be to design it and then, you know, putting it like just making scheduling when it would be.
But the out front actually has designers, so it wouldn't like anyone who co-chairs doesn't have to be like a graphic designer or anything. We
Yeah.
just give them ideas, they come up with some iterations to show us.
And I'm curious, like, do we have any idea in terms of we received any feedback from people to understand what means or mode of communication reaches the farthest, right? Like, I don't know, like what like feedback we've received, right? To know, like, do people, know us by, right, the billboard? Do they see our stuff on Facebook or Instagram or via emails that we send out? I'd be really curious to know, like, where are we reaching different bodies of people?
I can,
So,
oh, go ahead, Jade, sorry.
no, go ahead, Claudia.
I was just going to say, very generally speaking, we're reaching parents by Facebook, kids by Instagram. We have not measured at all numbers. We don't have data. The billboard reaches, I think, 113,000 people per month. Does that sound, Jade, isn't that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
Yeah,
The idea is like that's the people. How many people are driving on that road right next to it in a
yeah.
month? So I know that I have some like data on specific events. So when I did my Expressions of Healing event, I asked how do people find out about it, and it was like it was all over the place, and it was like a quarter of people said Facebook, a quarter of people said email, a quarter of people said word of mouth, and a quarter of people said like other or don't whatever. Like so it was
Stumbled
just
upon it, yeah.
it's really all over the place
Okay, well,
unfortunately.
I mean, that's good too. And I guess I would say, right, in that sense, right, then we just know, like, we need to do like each one, right? Like each one, gets a different,
Mhm.
potential group of people. And so, right, like just one isn't going to do it. It's kind of this wider net of communication to be able to reach all of those people. So, yeah,
Mhm.
not surprising, but good to know.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Um, so then, and if we decide like, you know what, billboards are dumb and wasteful. I don't like them. We're not going to do it. That's fine too. These are just examples of what are some
Yeah.
possible objectives could be. Another objective could be, and again, open to discussion, maybe like an outreach at one community event. So outreach could look like having a table with whatever we want to have at it, like maybe stats or whatever it is, and it could be at whatever community event that we want. An like an easy one that I would love to have the local wellness coalition at would be expressions of healing in April. So that could be a place to have the 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 outreach. um another idea that Rebecca put in the chat is at a basketball game, at a high school basketball game. So that could be another. It could be a basketball game, football game, wherever there's people there. So like maybe that sounds like a good idea. So I guess so then part of the work, if you're on the leadership, is either attending that, or someone else in who's part of the coalition can attend. But we would need more than just myself there. All right. So, does anyone how do people feel about these objectives? Do we want other ones? Do we not like some? Do we want to trade them out? What are we thinking?
Do we
So
know?
if I could just mention one thing that I think would be good, and I really only know this from um, reading minutes when I came on our board for the Youth and Family Services, but the local wellness coalition was pretty integral in kind of giving us direction and that kind of stuff, and so that was one thing that was pretty helpful. And this included like first selectman and all that kind of thing. But I think one of the objectives also should be advocacy, and that it helps to have other groups support us as we move forward and try and put together some of these initiatives. And so I would hope that one of the things they would do is provide advocacy for the efforts that we're trying to make within the community, and that's not just the staff and not just the board members, but can provide community feedback and the importance of these things. So as an objective, advocacy, for our efforts and directions that we're trying to take.
Advocacy for for the can you speak a little bit more about that?
Well, uh, so that as an objective, for the local wellness coalition,
Yeah.
it's also playing an advocacy role in supporting the efforts and programs that we're putting together to try and address the community needs.
Supporting
And
DMYFS programs.
I'm sorry.
DMYFS programs.
Right, that they had
Yeah.
a hand in, particularly those that they had a hand in, promoting and hoping that we would do. But I think there's an advocacy role in there as well that I think might be pretty important.
How about we make the advocacy as a goal, and then we write a couple of objectives for our wellness coalition specifically so we can have our objectives be measurable. Like, whatever number, however we want that to look,
Mhm.
so that everyone is really clear. And then, so Jade, I'm thinking that that would be a good goal. The advocacy part would be the second goal. And then we can write objectives for that goal.
How do people feel about that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
I do agree from like easier to track the objectives that way and yeah, have the broader goal, but steps to get there.
I agree.
Jada, I was just wondering if I could ask just a sort of clarifying question, I guess maybe for my own information. But first of all, I appreciate you explaining this. But um, of course, I do know what a coalition is, right? But what is the purpose of doing this as a side sort of thing, a side project, right? Essentially, a coalition, and not part of DMYFS as a whole, right? What is the point of having the separation of the two? Is just kind of what I'm wanting to understand.
Yeah,
Can
that's a
I,
great question.
yeah, can I answer that from a historical standpoint? The historically, and I'm not saying we have to follow all the stuff that's there, but historically, it was a separate group in order to advance what the communities thought were needed around some of the things that we were doing or should be doing within youth and family services. Now I'm talking about historically. It used to be a separate group, and they would be advancing awareness or knowledge or concern over things that should be getting done because of things they were seeing in the community that needed to be addressed and needed to be part of somebody's effort in order to ameliorate the problems.
It also acts as an advisory board for DMYFS. The missions are also different. So DMYFS does a lot of other things. I mean, a lot of it has to do with mental health. Um, it, you know, the mission of DMYFS is prevention, intervention, treatment, community building. So that's a big part of it. It overlaps with the local wellness coalition quite a bit, but it is still separate. And the coalition does advise a lot of what DMYFS, like it's part of it. It's not the same. Um, that so in the past, so there, it's also very tricky because in the past, with the grant funding, there was like the local wellness coalition is like the fiduciary. There's like some financial stuff that is no longer the case because we don't have that grant. And so part of what we want to kind of move towards is a coalition that is more more by the community, and then so it's not just DMYFS, if that makes sense. I'm not the best at communicating the coalition stuff, but I hope that it clarifies a bit.
I think that DMYFS is one of the, in an ideal world, just
Yeah.
one of the agencies working with a bunch of other agencies under the coalition. So the coalition kind of gives us a broad view where we have people from all different sectors saying, this is what we're seeing, this is what we think the community needs. DMYFS takes one piece to towards that, along with several other groups in the towns. Like for example, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Like ideally, that's what a coalition, but we haven't gotten there yet. So
So funny, for example, like I work at the high school, and so being on the coalition, it's like the lens from the high school and what I'm seeing there, and I can oh, can you check with the staff and ask this, or can you get a student group to answer this question? Just more of like a liaison from different parts of the community. Does that make sense?
yeah, we want to hear your voice on what you think like all of us should be doing. And you're right. You're from the lens of a high school teacher, seeing the issues and being able to come to this wellness coalition to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
And then having like parents or something like that. So ideally, if someone's from like Tri-Circle Inc. from, Middlefield, if they came onto the coalition or something, like whether it's Anna or if I just kind of was in contact with Anna, like ideally down the road, it's not just, the 8 people who super care about the community will be like bringing other things in to just kind of liaise for DMYFS and like how do we spend the time and the energy. Is that kind of what we're going for?
Yeah, it ultimately would provide a coordinated effort without overlap or maybe even a little bit of overlap, certainly collaboration, but not just DMYFS. And I think when we had the coalition for the 2 5-year grants, it was very DMYFS and there was, funds and there was a lot of things so that we could get a lot done. But our coalition now, what we envision is that's the umbrella, like sort of. So we have Morgan on the call from social services, anyone we can get, we build, and then you guys advise, and DMYFS will takes everything into account.
So, so okay, so kind of going back to, sounds like we kind of want 2 goals. One is to advocate, and one is to raise awareness.
Jane, question for you. So just going back to the different forms of communication. So with the Instagram and Facebook, I don't know these well enough, but is it possible to do like anonymous surveys on there? Like when I think of awareness, and just back to some of our earlier questions about like awareness of mental health and awareness of seeking support. Like I would just like, do I think people would like log on and take a 10-question survey? Nope. Do I think if they saw a survey on Facebook that was like, do you see a therapist to help you, right? And people clicked yes or no, if it was anonymous, if they wanted it to be anonymous, if they could do that. Like I feel like from an awareness standpoint, if people could see that quickly, answer it and then see like, oh my goodness, whatever, 50 something percent of, of these respondents like know someone with a mental health issue or seek out therapy. Like, I feel like that could be a nice step in awareness. I don't know if that's possible. Again, my limitations with social media, but I'm curious of like these snippets, right? Because I just, as much as I hate these snippets, like I am realizing like this is the world we live in, right? In terms of attention span. Again, don't know what's possible, but just again trying
That
to think of the different communications.
I'm not entirely sure if that exists. I feel like it should exist, but so maybe that's part of like, do we want to do a survey? Is that something that we're interested in doing? Like not it, it can be in these small snippets. I don't know exactly how we would do it, but like, do we want that to be an objective to like have some sort of community survey, because we already have this, we have the youth survey that is from 7th to 12th.
Yeah, that's where I'm just thinking like those snippets, right? And like and a quick feedback, right? Like if people could answer and get information and just realize, right? Like I feel like a quick answer of like, do you seek, support, right? Do you seek, do you or someone in your family, right? Um, see someone either through school or work or external, just that feedback loop to people again, that like not feeling alone, not feeling like they're doing this themselves. Like I feel like that could be helpful, right, for them to, yeah, and engage and feel a reason to engage.
Mm-hmm.
That and we want measurable goals. So I think the surveys, whether we can do them in snippets or yeah, however you keep the attention spans and get people to do them. But because I mean the youth survey is great, but if our goal now is to build awareness around XYZ, we need to know what people know. And then we have to send it again in a year to see what are their thoughts on it now, or however we're looking at. And even for the advocacy, is there a problem that, you think was brought up or you heard was being discussed, or I don't know how you would measure that in a survey. It'd be a little tricky, but did your opinion get heard and something like that? I don't know. But yeah, so the surveys are a great idea.
I know Facebook does have a poll option, but I don't believe there is a way to be anonymous for it. I've definitely seen the polls, but it'll show like who's voted for what. So I think that might have some limitations on who would be answering.
Sure.
But I do know with Google Forms, you can create surveys and people can answer them anonymously. So, and you can also like show results from that too. So you could create something like a Google form for people to fill out. You could even just like not just limited to Facebook, you could do like email, send that out, see what responses you get, and then you can share the responses or just make it available for people to see.
So it sounds like people like the idea of doing a survey, or having some sort of survey be an objective. And I don't, just looking at the time, we don't necessarily have to be like, okay, this is the exact survey that we're going to do. But if we know that we want to do a survey, then the next meeting we can maybe talk about. I mean, it depends on whoever is the co-chair. If we want to be like, okay, so like the next meeting, we're going to talk about the survey. What, here are these options, this is what we want to ask, all that, all that kind of stuff, like all of that. If we want it to be, if we want to do a survey, if we want that to be part of the objectives. Does it sound like, do we want to do a survey as part of the objectives?
I think it would be a great idea to do a survey because then we're not just capturing data from the youths. You'll also
Yep.
get more data from adults. And in the survey, you could say like, what age range do you fall into? So you can have like an idea of who is saying what.
So, and then I think that like part of the advocacy, it can just be, and maybe like the survey is like, maybe part of the goal or the objectives is that each person on the coalition posts it on their own social media or whatever, shares it with their group of people. So like Rebecca, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but you're the, representative from the school. Maybe, you can send it out to, your group, to this, all the teachers in the school or whatever, like, I don't know if that would be a possibility, but like something like that, Denise, if you're like, like as a parent, you have a parent group or the PTA or whatever, send it out there. Like that would be a great way to then get all that information. So it's not just, if we decide to do like a survey Google Forms type situation, it's not just relying on the DMYFS listserv, Facebook, and Instagram. Like we can kind of break it out, divide and conquer sort of thing.
Do we still have Nina to help like design it so we know how it's measuring what we want to measure?
Are you talking about Nina Chanana?
I think so. The one who would do all the evaluations.
Yeah, no.
No?
Yeah, I mean she does it for work, so it would cost a lot of money. But we've done a community survey. Jade put out a community survey. There are some difficulties getting people to respond, but
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking like I would start with like a 1 to 2 question survey, see how it goes. Like 2 weeks later, another 1, 2 question. Like I really do feel like people are much more likely to respond if they can do it in 2 minutes than like if they have to be like, oh, I'm in line at the grocery store. Oh, I don't have time for this. I'll do it later. And later doesn't happen. Like if it's 2 minutes, like answer done. Like I think shorter to start with would definitely be helpful.
So I do want to, because we are basically at the end of time. It sounds like we have kind of a basic idea of what we want our objectives to be. I think to make them truly measurable, maybe in the next meeting we can kind of finalize that and then choose whatever objective we want to talk about and kind of plan out for the next meeting. Do we have anybody who is interested in being part of the leadership? And it doesn't even have to, if it's like it doesn't just have to be one person. If there's a lot of people chomping at the bit to be chairs of the local wellness coalition.
Well, let me just say, I don't know who here is a board member and who isn't a board member, but if anybody else wants to do it, of course that's fine. If nobody else is available to do it, I'd be happy to help.
Thank you. I'm not usually like not permitted to like raise my hand, but I can't for this one.
I know. I was feeling the same way. I was like, I wish I could raise my hand, but I'm a board member, so
Dude,
I'm happy to help assist in any way, though.
Exactly. We are here to support.
If I don't know if there's like a secretarial kind of thing, but I kind of, or maybe it's just my anxiety trick, but while I'm at meetings, taking notes seems to be like my thing. So if you wanted like a secretarial thing to just kind of keep minutes, I could do that. I'm sorry, I wrote down 6 o'clock in my calendar. That's why I was so late.
Oh, don't even
sorry.
Jade, I'd be willing to help. That's what you have on your mind.
Jade, I'd be willing to help as well. I wouldn't be able to always commit. I am on several boards in this town, but I would definitely like to be a part of things. Claudia and I have established a relationship in the last year, and unfortunately, I just have too much going on, but I do, this is important to me. So I would like to be part of this and do whatever I can to help.
Okay. So I am going to have Emily, I'm going to put you down as, I'm going to have Bronwyn and Emily as co-chairs. If there are things that you're like, I really can't make it to this meeting, or I can do a lot of help on this specific objective or whatever it is that, but I can't on this other thing because I have like 50 billion other things to do. That's totally fine. We can kind of work around that. That also makes it a lot easier on Bronwyn and myself that we both too, we don't always have to be the ones to do the things. Does that sound fair for you, Emily?
I love it. I just wanted to put that out there to begin with, right?
Yeah.
We all want to do our share in group work, but I just want to put that out there in the beginning of, yes, I want to help. I just can't I do have a problem with overcommitting myself, and I need to be transparent. So this is me being transparent.
And Rebecca, it would be amazing if you could share a summary of what, if you want to be do the secretary, and then maybe we can post that we have a blog on DMYFS page, or even like in the caption of the recording, like the key highlights, this is what happened, sort of thing. I think that would be really great. If you want to.
Yeah, that sounds good. I could take that on.
Perfect. Awesome. So let me just go now. I'm not the best at computers. Okay. So we have kind of what our next steps are. I'm going to send an email. I know, Rebecca, you came in a little bit late. So for this one, I can kind of fill in, if you want to share with me the notes that you took, and then I'll just fill in the beginning part of the meeting.
Didn't do them tonight, but as you were talking, I'm like, ooh, I should be writing this down. I should be writing this down. I should be writing this down. So maybe like
I have it all written down.
Next time with the thing, that might be
even better, because I have everything written down right now. I'm going to send a follow-up email to everybody. The next meeting, so I just kind of did it what the quarter is going to be at the last Monday, or whatever, not the last Monday, whatever the Monday is. April 20th is the meeting. It's also the week of Expressions of Healing, so that might also be a good, maybe there's something that we can talk about there as well. It also might help if we decide to work on community outreach, and if we wanted to be there. All right, so that's going to be the next meeting, and then look out for some emails that I'm going to send throughout, kind of just like a little bit of a follow-up. Does anybody have any questions or anything before we leave?
Well, just where Rebecca put in the chat about the community event being a basketball game, like I love that. I love like us coming to a student, like a high school led event. You know, I mean, it's like, I mean, definitely we have like the Tums dinners, which, you know, there's definitely different events that we could, but I love the idea of kind of coming to, you know, one of the sporting events.
Same, I agree.
Yeah,
yes.
and that covers
awesome.
like everybody, like students, adults, seniors, all like, because it's a family event. So
yeah.
All right. So awesome. Cool. So then I'm gonna Bronwyn and I and Emily will talk a little. I'll send you some emails, and we can kind of figure out what sporting event that we want to have the outreach at, and who wants to be at the table, and what do we want to have at that table. So just keep an eye out on your emails. Anyone else? Any other lasting thoughts?
Just for that agenda, Jade, could maybe be like a brain dump, or it could even be like a Google Doc to be shared now, but just a brain dump of events that might be cool to.
Yeah. Okay, I'll definitely work on that.
And I was just going to say thank you as chairman of the board of YFS. Say thank you to all of you for being willing to be here tonight. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Stay
Bye.
warm.
Thank you.
Don't get stuck in the snow, and I will see you all April 20th. Bye-bye.